Hi, and we're live. I was actually reading all the greetings on the side, all the comments. A lot of you are already here, so welcome. And we have our muse here today, Melly Rose. As you know, today is a little bit special because I decided to draw in fountain pen, and it's going to make things a little different because it's much slower a process than what we're used to. Let me add a little bit of brightness here so I can see your comments. So I've already noticed that some of you have a few questions about what to use. Of course, I'm going to draw in fountain pen, but it doesn't mean that you have to. If you want to do this portrait of Melly Rose in pen, like, ballpoint, or just, like any old pen, that's great. You can also do it in pencil if you want as well. You can draw on Procreate, on the iPad. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Um, but I'm going with fountain pen because, well, it's something I don't do as often maybe as I should. And also because it's going to take a while. So, all right, the paper is smooth. Let me talk about the paper I'm about to use because I've never used this paper before. It is as smooth as I would say almost moleskin, but I think it's better quality. So this is the paper I found on my shelf. This is something that was given to me. I believe it was my husband at the time. And let me flip the camera so that you can really see what it is. Okay. So the brand is Borden and Riley. It's a gigantic um, block of paper. It's 11 by 14 inches, so 27.9 by 35.6 centimeters, as you can see. Sorry, it's not really focusing right. It's called number 234 Paris, and it is bleed proof paper for pens. That alone makes me pretty optimistic about the quality of the paper that we're going to draw in with today. Okay, it says smooth surface, no bleed through, non-wicking and acid free, archive quality. That's always a very good thing. Again, Borden and Riley, and there's an Eiffel Tower here on the cover. So the paper is not super thick, not very thick, but definitely very smooth. So that should be an interesting thing to work with. All right, I've had this paper for ages, and I am finally deciding to draw with it. I decided to cut a piece of it so that I have a little bit of room to, to flip it around. I wish I could greet everyone who's coming in. I can only, catch glimpses. Another thing I'm going to tell you about the drawing today is because it's going to be slow, because it's fountain pen, I don't think I'm going to come anywhere near completion. So I'm going to use next week as well, which is June 20th, to continue on the same portrait. So Melly here, Melly, is going to be with us for 2 weeks in a row. Okay, so that should be an interesting way of doing this. All right, so listen. On July 1st at Sketchy, we have 30 Faces, 30 Days starting, and it's going to be a special Procreate edition, which means that um, us, the 6 artists for the whole class, are going to draw on the iPad. So that's super exciting. If you want to pick up that class plus a second of any one of my classes, right now we get 20% off at Sketchy for 2 of my classes, including 30 Faces, 30 Days, with the code crosshatching. Why crosshatching? Well, this is what we're doing today, guys. Because when I use fountain pen, I definitely have to cross hatch. I don't know any other way to do it. So bear with me here. All right, let's talk about the tools, shall we? Okay. Yeah. Yes, Ute. I love I love the fact that I'm gonna put Ute's comment here because I pointed it out earlier. I don't know Ute, we've never met, but we actually know each other through classes here at Sketchy. And Ute has been pushing for having fountain pen for a while now. Are you going to draw in fountain pen? Or maybe you should draw in fountain pen. So I'm drawing in fountain pen, Ute, and we're going to do this 2 weeks in a row because there is no way I'm going to finish today. So I think 2 weeks of fountain pen is good. I saw Rick is here today. I think I saw him come in the comments. And again, if you want to pick up any two of my classes, you get 20% off with the code crosshatching. Look underneath the video. You have all the info. You have the reference photo. You have the code crosshatching. You have the link to the group drawing with France in Sketchy Art School. So all of this is at your disposal right underneath this video. Okay, the fountain pen itself. Are you guys ready? Well, let's start with the fountain pen, which is Mont Blanc. So, all right, I'm going to switch camera because I've seen enough of my face here. This is a Meisterstück, and I hope that I'm pronouncing some of these words somewhat right. Mont Blanc Meisterstück. This is a big one. It's really thick for people with big hands, which is not really my case, but it was the case for the owner of this pen originally, my stepfather, who has big working hands, and he's always wanted something, big to hold. He doesn't like small pens. So he bought this in 1987, and the nib is 18 karat gold. It's really just an amazing tool as well as an amazing piece of jewelry. I can't describe it any other way. It is just a machine that works all the time. Like you let it sit for a week or two and you pick it up and it works. It's amazing. But it's also beautiful. I mean, this nib, I don't know how well you can see, but it's white gold and gold. It doesn't mean that you have to have an $800 piece of jewelry. Um, well, thank you, Ute. I was hoping I was saying Meisterstück. Okay. Um, so you don't have to have such an expensive piece of equipment to draw with me today, please. This just happens to have a huge sentimental value because this pen is turning 33 this year. Um, and I've seen my stepfather use it, and he gave it to me about 4 years ago. So, yeah, it's really good. All right, let's talk about the ink. The ink is also Mont Blanc, and it's not black. It's toffee brown. Oh my gosh, it's amazing the color of this ink. I love it. I spilt it a little bit once, so since then it's been sticking in the box a little, but this is basically the ink that I'm going to be using today. It goes on fairly light. It's great, even though it's not waterproof. So if you prefer using waterproof ink, you know. And yes, I I have Jordan at Sketchy here who says the pen doesn't look a day over 30, right? That's right. All right, Mont Blanc ink, Mont Blanc pen, some really high quality materials here. I bought this ink 3 years ago, and I still have quite a bit in there. 60 milliliters is plenty. Okay, which is 6 centiliters, I believe, right? If I'm getting my metric right. Okay. So let's take a look at this photo of Melly Rose. All right, and I don't know where I'm gonna start, guys. This may not be one of those sessions where I talk a lot. I think I'm just gonna try to figure out what I'm doing as I go, because one of the things that is true about drawing with a fountain pen is I have no recipe other than making thick marks and thin marks pretty differently with this fountain pen. So as I was trying the paper a minute ago, I'm going to show you, see how broad the regular stroke is here with this fountain pen. Okay, Mont Blanc. Okay, this is fairly thick, but the moment that you flip the nib, which I remember growing up in France and using fountain pens since first grade. Um, the teacher used to always tell us, "Don't flip your thing because you are going to bend the nib." Now, of course, I'm not going to press on the nib, but the fact that I am flipping it, oof, let's see if I can get a mark. Hold on. All right, better. You see now the lines are extremely thin. As long as you can see them though, right? That's what matters. You can hear the scratching probably a little bit, yes? I bet you can. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my Mont Blanc as thin um, as possible, really. This is the plan here today. Okay? So I'm gonna start thin. I don't know that I'm even gonna go with the broad, the broad end of it. I may, but may not. I find I have a lot more subtlety when I flip the nib and when I manage this kind of thickness, you see? It's amazing. But I don't press on it. There's no pressing on this kind of nib. I also have on the side a little bit of a paper towel here because when you scratch and scratch and scratch on a piece of paper, you end up having some pulp, of the paper stuck in the nib. So I'm gonna have to wipe that as I go. Okay, guys, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start. I don't know where I'm gonna start. Maybe in the eye, probably. Um, yeah, that sounds about right. And we're gonna go like this and hope that we at least have the beginning of some facial features showing up. This is probably going to spin around quite a bit. I cut a square-ish piece of paper from this large paper that I have. Again, for those of you who are coming in, you can pick up two of my classes, any two, and get 20% off, including this new class that we have starting on July 1st, which is 30 Faces, 30 Days. I saw Marguerite is here with us from Canada. She is one of the 6 artists for 30 Faces and 30 Days on the iPad. So that's going to be a really exciting time. All right, guys, I'm really excited to be back in the live. And look, this is I have the same apprehension, which is I'm gonna start drawing with a pen and it's gonna go south, and I'm gonna make this too big. But well, that's the risk we're taking, right? That's why we like doing this. All right, guys, I'm getting out the fountain pen and I'm gonna do my best in order not to mess this one up too badly. In fact, I'm actually zooming in on the features that I want to focus on Melly Rose's face. You don't see it here because you see her full profile, but I'm really focusing on the eyes, eyebrows, the edge of the nose there, the little nose ring, and the mouth. So if we get to do an eye today, I'll be pretty happy with that. Okay? All right. Yes, the eye class. Thank you, Annie. I really enjoyed teaching that. So when I start with this Mont Blanc, it should have enough ink today, but sometimes I start and it doesn't always give me a mark. So bear with me, okay? All right, I'm going in. Are you guys going in too? Let's go. It's going to be small, it's going to be tentative, it's going to be slow, okay? Very, very slow when I work in fountain pen. And again, always trying not to make marks that I'm going to regret. We've got eyelashes here. See the speed at which I'm going right now? It gives you an idea of what a slow burn this is going to be. Millie has amazing features. She's such a great muse. Oh, here's an excuse to use my broad side. So that's all I've got so far. But you know, it's a start. It's a start. Okay. Unfortunately, everybody, I'm going to start not seeing your comments at all. I'm going to be incapable of reading them. So at any given moment, if one of you wants to answer, you know, somebody who's asking questions, please do. Okay. There's a big air conditioning unit next to my window. It is obnoxious, to say the least. It's from the building next door. Okay, just starting lines for now. I switch now to the broad side of my nib, the normal side, so to say, because this is where some very dark tones are. So this is just an eye for now, just an eye. Okay, so I'm going to start adding some, I guess what is called values here and there. Keeping my strokes very light. It scratches on the paper, that's for sure. And here I go, guys. I'm flipping things around. I didn't even tell my stepfather I was doing this today with his pen. I'll tell him later, next time I'm on FaceTime with him. Oop, sometimes it doesn't go. Okay. Oop. Okay. Let me see if I'll have better luck when I go in this direction. Maybe. Okay. This paper so far is behaving in a way that I like. It doesn't seem to mind the intersection of a lot of pen, which can be an issue with a paper that is a little thin. Okay. And right up here somewhere, I'm gonna have an eyebrow. Right there, I think. Eyebrow is barely visible. I'm always checking my nib, hoping that I'm not hurting it too much. Okay. It's so minute working with a fountain pen like this. It's just so insanely minute. Underneath the eye. Curving the lines just a bit here to try to follow the curve of the face. But again, don't always quote me on making these choices because I could be doing it all wrong for all I know. Okay, my iPad is sometimes falling asleep right next to me. I have to wake it up. Alright, let's see how I'm gonna deal with this. The white part of the eye is pretty white, right? So we're not going to touch it too much. Do you always hatch with the nib upside down? When I start hatching, yes. Unless, if I was drawing something gigantic, then I would feel free to do exactly what I'm doing now with the broad part of the pen, but that's really not the case. I want to move very slowly. I want to move um, with super, super thin lines. And that's why it's like this. And that's why the build-up is going to be extremely slow, guys. You see, my hatching is not even fast. I carefully, look at the original photo and decide, okay, is this right? Let's see, I think we are reaching, oh, all right, this is where things are gonna get goofy. Because this is where I'm perfectly capable of messing up. The direction in which the nose is gonna go. Okay, something like this. Let's go with that. Look at the corner of my paper. These are all the lines that I make so that the ink continues to flow, Oh gosh. See, yeah. When you slow down your cross hatching, you have a chance to make them a little longer. Okay, let's see how this goes. Something like that. Flipping it around now because there's a little bit more dark here on the edge of the nose. The cap. It's an exercise in restraint too, because as I'm deciding, to add a little bit of cross hatching somewhere, I have to really be careful not to overdo it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe the nose is a little big. I don't know, guys. Okay, I'm gonna go with this normal stroke, and now I'm gonna pull the ink that's not yet dry into the paper here a little bit. Just like that. Okay, I didn't do too great there on the tip of the nose, but maybe I can quote unquote fix that a little later. Okay, can you guys all see? Yes? Okay. When you get into a really dark spot, um, the paper starts reacting and saying, I think I'm gonna start, becoming mush right now, and that's not a fun moment. So you have to be careful to just kind of let it dry for a minute and come back to it, so that you're not like, digging into something that's becoming soft and mushy. That could have some really bad consequences on the drawing. Okay, let's see here. Flipping again, guys. Flipping. Okay. Yes. I know sometimes, when you like you keep working at the same spot, and next thing you know the paper is like starting to get so wet that you need to step back from that area, let it dry, let it sit, and then come back to it a little later, or not, because it could be also that maybe you were starting to overdo it anyway. Maybe that was the paper's way of telling you, dude, don't. Okay, now I think I've got a little bit of a pulp in here. Let's see. Oh, maybe it's the ink too. Let me see. No, it looks as though we're good in ink. Okay, those of you who are also doing this with a fountain pen, are we doing okay? Are you like moving also very slowly and, you know, carefully, not trying to rush through and then eventually say, oh, I didn't have enough patience, you know? I think patience here is the name of the game, right? This is, by the way, the status on my corner. Now I'm just going over and realizing, oh, look, I can add a little more depth to this or that. Like here, for instance, see this little bit here on the original photo. I really like how dark it got. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going into the reference photo. That's not right. Hope you can still see what I'm doing. Okay, I hope I'm gonna have enough ink for the next 25 minutes. We'll see. If not, I will reload live in front of you. Which is a process with a Mont Blanc, I have to say. Okay, here's the little nose ring. I'm going to suggest the bottom by doing this, and a little bit of it here. But that's about all I will do right now. And a little line right there. Trying not to overdo it, okay? This is, hey, Zach, you're here. I'm so glad. Don't apologize for being late. It's awesome when former students join. Zach just graduated college. I had him as a freshman in high school back in 2012, 2013, right? All right, then we have this. Okay, first let me go here. Let me do this. Hope you guys still can see. going very slowly, tentatively, okay? And again, on the side here, look at what I'm doing on the side. I'm doing this every now and then just so the ink keeps its healthy flow, because I am really kind of contradicting my pen by turning it upside down like that, and it probably doesn't like it. It's like putting on a pair of socks on the dog, you know. Dog's like, I'm not meant for this. I hope everybody still has enough patience to deal with this. Keep in mind that over at Sketchy, I'm taking a little break to stretch my back. Over at Sketchy, if you want to pick up our new class starting on July 1st, which is just in about 2 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks, you can pick up that class. 6 of us drawing on the iPad, a different drawing every day, hence the name, 30 Faces, 30 Days. That starts July 1st. If you want to pick that up, plus any one of my classes, you have 20% off using the code crosshatching. You can look underneath this video and you will see the code. Okay. Alrighty. Yeah, this is a slow one, guys. Yeah. Oh, stop. Oh, stop, you guys. Yeah, this is just part of the whole relaxation thing, because when I get into cross hatching and I feel that I'm getting maybe a little too stressed, doing this in the corner helps just sort of, kind of resetting and relaxing the hand a little where it should be relaxed. Okay, I'm just going to continue. Okay. I really have to flip that paper around. I want to address this question, okay? Raki Amir. So since I'm in fountain pen today, I definitely want something extremely smooth, like super smooth, like no tooth, no grain, no texture, just something super smooth. So whatever you have that would be like a Bristol piece of paper would work great for this kind of thing. And also something that's thick enough, because you see, what happens is when you start digging deep into the values here, if you have a thin paper, it's not going to be able to handle that. So this paper so far is actually doing the job, even though it's not as thick as a piece of Bristol paper, the smooth type. There's also, while we're doing this, happening simultaneously, is a Zelda game happening, right, Nora? On the 3DS, on the Nintendo. For those of you who are familiar with video games, Zelda apparently is a neat game. What is it called, Nora? guys can still see. Yes, Jenny, right? Zelda has great artwork. I don't know if your daughters, right? I believe, Jenny, you have daughters. If they play Zelda on the Switch, but I heard that Breath of the Wild is very cool when it comes to the artwork. My daughter doesn't have a Switch. Okay, it's pretty dark underneath her eye here. Oh, you all play it on the Switch, Jenny. That's great. Yeah. Yep. And Link is the boy. And apparently you can't change his name. I've never played Zelda, so I hope, sure my ignorance is showing here. So I'm moving super gradually here. Okay, just gonna try to continue making it look somewhat real. It's really dark in the nostril here. I'm trying to keep this as realistic as possible. Thank you guys. Thank you all for being here. Those of you in Europe, it's about 10 to 7, so 1850, right? About dinner time. I mean, obviously not all over Europe. In the UK, we're closer to 5:50. Okay. I love little spots like this. Working on that is always so energizing almost. Ooh, I'm getting messages, and my watch is telling me to stand. Oh, guys, I apologize for giving you a apparently a wrong piece of information. It looks as though the cross-hatching code for the 20% off of my classes does not apply for 30 Faces, 30 Days of July. It's any one of my classes otherwise. Excellent. You know what? I would like to address your question, Robert. You always have really interesting questions, Robert. You're always here, and then you're like spot on. Have you ever started an ink drawing in graphite to establish proportions and then drawn over in pen? No. Here's why. The graphite itself is a texture that's slippery. You know this, right? It's a very slippery thing once it gets on the paper, even a tiny little bit. And the little bit of ink that you're trying to put on top, whether it's with a fountain pen or even a ballpoint pen, is not gonna, it's gonna slide right on it. It's going to just, it's almost, you know, graphite is like a lubricant in a pencil sharpener, right? It acts as like a slippery surface almost once it's on the paper. And when you try, and maybe you have, to put ink on that, it just doesn't register well. The ink wants to grab onto something. Even if it's a smooth paper, the paper drinks it, right? So, yeah, no. Basically, graphite before ink is a big no-no for me. So yeah, that's why drawing in ink is such an adventure because, you know, it's just it's either done well or it's a mess up, and that's fine. But yeah, no, I do not establish anything in pencil first. And obviously, I'm saying this for having tried and failed miserably. Because again, of the graphite providing such a slippery and almost, you know, waterproof surface for the ink to not be able to grab onto. Okay. Yeah, it is slow today. Very slow. So see what I've accomplished in 1 hour. That's why we are going to continue with Melly Rose next week. This same drawing, I'm going to try to resist the temptation to touch it and, you know, continue it during the week. I'm just going to put it aside, put it on my shelf there, and I won't touch it until we resume together next week. Let's do this. I hope I'm still in the frame. Sometimes I forget. That's a good question. I think that's David, right? D. Wade from the UK. Would you consider revisiting a previous pen drawing that remains unfinished from one of those Saturday sessions? Why not? Warum nicht? Yeah, that would be something, right? Sure. And Margaret, you said in all caps, please post the photo of the muse again in larger format. I believe the link for that is underneath this video, so take a look. I think it's in large format. I could be wrong. I just have my own from Sketchy, you know, downloaded on my iPad, and the resolution is fine. It's on Sketchy app. Melly is on Sketchy app. The pen almost makes zipper sounds. Zip, zip, zip. Oh my gosh, look at this. See? It's starting to grow. Next thing you know, I'm going to have more of this, like, meeting the the drawing. Oh well. So be it. I know, you would think, right? You would think that I would take a separate sheet of paper, right? Like this, and do it there. Yes, you would think. So that's what I'm gonna do. Because I think, geez, continuing to draw on the same paper that I'm drawing on. Oh my goodness. And I agree, it's a gorgeous day in New Jersey, gorgeous in Pennsylvania, on both sides of the Delaware. And it looks as though it's going to be a day for a walk, indeed. Good idea. Now that we're not quite as confined, I've been walking a few miles each day. And it has been necessary, just like these live drawings. Okay. Beatrice, if you don't have a fountain pen, don't worry. You can use a ballpoint. This very technique I'm using is exactly the way I tackle things in ballpoint. The ballpoint may be a little faster because it registers all the time. The fountain pen, when I flip it upside down like that, does not always respond super well. So that's why it takes me a little longer. But yeah, absolutely. Ballpoint all the way. So slow. So slow. How's everybody doing? So we're close to ending the hour, but I'm gonna go over a little bit because I didn't start at 12. I think I'm gonna go until 1:10, which is 1:10 Eastern time here on the east coast of the United States. I know that for some of you in Canada, whether you are in Canada in the Maritimes, then that's an hour ahead of me. Okay. Okay. So I believe one of you asked a few minutes ago, and I didn't address this really important question. What happens when you mess up? Right? You're drawing in pen, and it goes wrong. Well, that's what it is. You just chuck it. You take that piece of paper and or you do as I do a lot of times when something didn't quite go as planned. That's okay. It's on one piece of the paper. Um, I just use the paper and go, somewhere else. So for me, nothing's completely lost. I either chuck the drawing or that's just part of studying. It's just a study. I never draw with the idea of, putting it up on a wall. I don't have drawings of mine on my walls at all. Ute, you were asking me, did you have to write in fountain pen in elementary school too? Yes, in France. Although today, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Um, but I know that when I was in elementary school, in the very early 80s, like 1980 is when I think I really started to learn to write. Um, we had no choice in France but to start writing with a fountain pen. So all the kids would have, ink all over their fingers at first. But what I love about this is it teaches you, first of all, to take care of your own, tools. Like you don't just like, oh, where's my pen? Oh, I don't know, just chucked it or whatever. It gave you sort of an appreciation for tools, and you had to take care of your fountain pen. That was one thing. And also it taught you how to write fairly well, in my opinion. That in Europe we don't print, we only write longhand. So that was, in my opinion, a plus, an appreciation for forming your letters well, which to me is a form of drawing, because writing is drawing, in my opinion, because it's muscle memory. It's trying to make those letters shaped right. At least that's how I tackle writing. So yeah, for me there were so many benefits to learning to write with a fountain pen growing up in France. And Ute, I'm going to return the question to you. Was it the case also in Germany? Did you have to write with a fountain pen when you started out? And dip pens in the 50s. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes to dip pens, man. That's a challenge right there. Wow. I don't know. I know I'm going to sound super old fashioned by saying this, but having this appreciation for the tools and for drawing those letters, because again, writing is drawing, in my opinion, that really teaches you a thing or two about art. As in, yes, writing is a tool, writing is a means to an end, but it can also be beautiful in itself. So I think there's something great about appreciating that. Yeah. Naomi, you're asking if the nib gets dull. It has not been my experience. Oh, and hold on, let me go back to Cathy. So, Cathy Serroux, it is compulsory in France to learn writing starting with fountain pen. Yes, so we haven't lost everything. It's great. Excellent. And Nikira in Russia was the same thing. That's awesome. So Naomi was asking me, Mont Blanc fountain pen, do the nibs get dull? It has not been my experience at all. As I was saying at the beginning this is a 18 karat gold nib, and it has not budged in 33 years. And God knows that we've used this fountain pen. When I say we, I mean my stepfather, who is the original owner of it, wrote with it all the time, and I use it as a writing tool and as a drawing tool. Even though, again, I consider these two things to be very much the same. So yeah, it's crazy. For 33 years, this pen has not budged. This nib has not seen a nib doctor, even though I know there's a place in Manhattan where you can get your nib altered or changed to your own handwriting. The one thing is for sure is that a nib does get used to somebody's way of holding it. That's why we always say never, never, ever lend your fountain pen. It's like a toothbrush. It's very personal. It gets used to the way it's being held. My sister, who's left-handed, would hold the fountain pen totally differently than me, and I was never able to make her fountain pens work for me. But when it came time to my stepfather bequeathing this fountain pen to me, it just so happens that the way he holds his pen and the way I do is very much the same. So it wasn't, it wasn't a criminal activity to, to hold that nib in a different way. Nora, can you do me a favor? Do we still have you seen My Dragon, the book? Do you remember? Have you seen My Dragon?
Yeah, no, I don't know where it is.
Okay, next week, guys, I'm looking on my shelf here quickly to see if I. Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. So listen. The author, Steve Light. Steve Light is the author of Have You Seen My Dragon? This book is amazing. Even if you don't have kids, this is an amazing book to read and just to appreciate the graphics. This is only the cover. I contacted him when I bought this book because I was so intrigued by the drawings and how thin and thick you see these lines are. And he told me, he responded kindly and said that he drew this entire book with exactly this fountain pen, the Mont Blanc 149, which is the Meisterstück. And this was back in maybe 2015. And so I remember thinking, oh, my stepfather has one. Let me ask if he still uses it. And that's how, because of this book, that I wanted to draw with 149 as well. So I contacted my mom at the time, and she said, yeah, we still have it. Michel, my stepfather, agreed to give it to me, and that's how I got it. And so since then, I've been playing around with the Mont Blanc 149, which is the Meisterstück. Steve Light, however, the author of Have You Seen My Dragon, has his nib, I believe, altered a little bit because his nib does things that mine doesn't do, which is that thin and thick thing. I haven't had mine altered, so I'm just using it probably the wrong way. What can I say? But that's one of the things that these amazing fountain pens can do. Okay, let's see what time it is. Okay, it's about to be 1:10, so I could go on like this for a long time and forget about time and forget about, a lot of things, but I'm going to put down my pen for now. We're going to see each other again next week. And next week, we are going to continue working on this particular beautiful profile, which may or may not be accurate in terms of proportions, but right now that's how it is. Okay, so there it is. You pick up any two of my classes, everybody. Although apparently 30 Faces, 30 Days is not included in that, the one starting on July 1st. But I do have a class exclusively on cross hatching, which teaches you basically how to go about, not overdoing it, how to hold back, and how to, use restraint so that you don't just overhatch everything, which may be the case here. But yeah, so guys, we're going to continue Melly Rose next week. I'm going to keep it at this for now and hope that you will tune in again on the 20th of June. Thank you for being here. I can't believe you guys have had the patience to sit through this with me as I was drawing all this. Let me try to bring this a little closer to the camera and hopefully It'll focus. You see it? Ah, there she is, a little bit closer, right? Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Um, it's been just pure joy drawing with my 1987 Mont Blanc 149 149 Meisterstück. Okay, and thank you, Uta, for giving me the right push to do this, right? Okay, everyone, I'm gonna leave you here. I'm gonna not touch this, and I'll see you again next week, June 20th, same time, noon on the eastern coast of the United States. And yeah, have a great week. Get out there, take a walk, and yeah, let's not use graphite, right? Let's just go right into ink. Bye, everyone. Let's post in Sketchy Art School and Drawing with France. I'm going to post this. I'm going to try to take a decent photo so that you can really see the detail, okay? And we'll see each other again next week. Abrazos, besos, bisous, everybody. Tschüss, and bye.